Awesome.
That's why I stopped talking.
There
Always getting in trouble.
we go. Well, welcome everybody. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to talk to us, Elka and myself. Um, I will warn you, we are not slide heavy today. So a little bit polar opposite from our last event, which I'm really excited to do the follow-on session today with Elka. This is a continuation really of our session at the BCNet conference. I know my first face-to-face conference in 2.5 years. I had so much fun being there. And the only downside was on that big stage with all of the AV that BCNet put on, we couldn't demo some of the stuff that I was talking about. So really, that's a big part of today is getting to show you some of that live. And with that, welcome, Alka. I'll turn it over to you to start some dialogue here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nigel. Hi, everybody. For those of you who I've had the chance to meet, it's wonderful to see so many familiar names. And for those of you who are new friends, I'm Dr. Elka Walsh, the National Learning and Skills Lead with Microsoft Canada. So I work with post-secondary institutions as well as K-12 school boards across the country to support them with the art of the possible when it comes to imagining the future of teaching and learning. I'm so excited for our talk today and for Nigel and the Microserve team to help guide us through what are the tools that are available when we think about what is high flex learning. And so there are a few things I want to remind folks about because there have been a real acceleration that we've noticed over the past couple of months as we think about how do we bring students back to learning so that they are engaging and they are developing their community, as well as the opportunity for them to really learn from anywhere and at any time. That idea of how do we do flexible learning that really brings them that engagement. And to remind about a few things. Why is hybrid and high flex learning so important? Well, we know as we all adapted to the realities of the pandemic, there was a lot of emergency learning that was going on. And so we removed ourselves from our physical classrooms in many jurisdictions that lasted for quite some time. Then we were moving back and forth. We were into the classrooms for in person learning, and we were back out again into online. There's a lot of disruption that happened. And so we at Microsoft, we did some research with the help of the Economist Intelligence Unit, and we found that learning really does need to evolve from being just about squares on a screen, so that remote learning is really about new engagement and pedagogical models, but having the right tools to make sure that we've got students the experiences that capture their minds and their hearts so that they love their learning. And we know that 85% of faculty and educators believe that the pandemic accelerated the future of digital learning by a decade. And importantly, 93% of students believe that digital learning will benefit their education. And these students, they know they're moving into a very changed world where hybrid work is a reality. So we have high flex work environments now, as well as teams that are working from anywhere and everywhere in the world that need to be able to come together. Our students need the skills not just to learn about how to create with the technology, but also how to use the technology in ways that promote collaboration and engagement. And so this means that we need to think differently about the way in which students then are engaging in their classrooms. So as we bring folks back online and others may be having to learn from home, maybe they're sick or the realities of life are happening, or maybe they're international students who are not able to be on campus. It is our opportunity to elevate the experience. And that's what really hybrid and high flex classrooms is all about. Because we know when we don't have a great experience, we can't hear everybody in the room, it really results in disengagement. We also know that disengaged students don't learn. Engagement is a marker of student success. It's a proxy for that. And when we can get students to engage and feel like they're right in the room, no matter where they are, or that students who are in the room are able to connect and collaborate with their peers who may be elsewhere, this is our opportunity then to really think differently about what that experience is so that they can hear their peers as well as engage with them in collaborative opportunities. And so there are many tools that are going to enable that. And before Nigel and team get into some of the key aspects of what an elevated experience from a high flex classroom looks like, it is much about how do we ensure that the classrooms have the right infrastructure, but also the right collaboration tools, creating an ecosystem of learning that really enables the students to take it to the next level, as well as their teachers. It means tools like productivity tools like our Word, PowerPoint, Office, and Excel that really enable the students to collaborate together, create content, but also to have access to the accessibility tools that are built right in so that every single student can engage in their learning. That's everything from being able to use speech to text and text to speech as well, which is a part of our immersive reader, as well as tools like Microsoft Lens for students who have visual impairment, who are then going to be able to join in, as well as Teams that enables transcription and translation so that language is no longer a barrier and everyone can engage. But I think the most exciting part is how do we change the way in which, when we have students in a traditional classroom setting, how do we help them engage differently, whether it's community-based learning with somebody joining a classroom or students who are also outside the classroom? And this is really also our opportunity to help them learn about how industry is and the world of work is evolving and how they can feel comfortable and ready with the kind of collaboration communication tools that will help them to thrive. And so with that, Nigel, I am so excited for your team to walk us through the feeling that we can have of full inclusion when we have a Microsoft Teams rooms.
Bet. Well, thank you, Elka. And I'm so excited because this is a session I get to geek out and I'm not living in slides. Big thanks to both Microsoft because as you'll see shortly, I've got a Surface Hub in the room and for bringing Elka into this session, as well as from Logitech, who was able to very last minute bring in a hybrid classroom kit that we got our AV team to set up, lucky me, into my office in work. So I've been playing with new toys since last Friday afternoon, trying to prep for this. And what you probably noticed is right now, though, I'm just looking down to you from my laptop. So this would be that very much remote learning. We're not really into hybrid yet. So sort of slowly what I'll do is pull you out of that, starting with some of the fundamental pieces from my perspective here. Now, certainly, Elka, I don't know about you, but my take is feel free and interact. If you get a question while I start showing something, by all means, I think we've got enough time to spare here. This is just demo. I don't have 3,300 slides to make it through today. So what I did want to start with, though, is what can I do from a laptop that not everybody's seen in a Teams meeting? So kind of start small, and then I'll get bigger into some of the fun tech that I have in the room here. Now, the first thing I wanted to do is show what it takes when you've got a content camera hooked up to your just to your own local device. So in my case, as a part of the classroom kit, I've got a Logitech Brio that's connected to my Surface Pro right now. And the one piece I'm not going to show you, I'm going to throw screenshots in the chat just because I can't share it out here. If you give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Of just the sharing options that maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't seen. But essentially when we share, it's one of those ones that people may have noticed but never touched before. So the first one is just when I hit share, you'll see content from camera pop up. If you pull up the meeting chat there, you'll be able to see that. And then when I do choose content from camera, I've got some cool options. So this, even if all you're talking about is a laptop with a secondary camera hooked up as a peripheral device, you have that ability to essentially share out, as I'm literally going to do as we speak here, and turn on the Brio camera as a shared device. In my case, in the bottom option from content, I'm choosing video. It's not quite video, but you'll see what I mean here in a second. So as I share this out, it should flip over. And now you're seeing, to me, the brains of the operation behind Microsoft Teams Room, or an MTR. This is essentially the touch panel of no matter what manufacturer or make that you bring into a Teams Room environment. If it's a Teams Room certified device, you're going to see the exact same screen. Whether it's Logitech, Poly, neat, any of these manufacturers that have this type of hardware, the console's the same. So that's one of my first favorite pieces here is just the fact that the user experience, which is kind of the name of the game, especially think about instructors trying to leverage this technology, that ability to come onto a touch panel, every single meeting room or a classroom environment has essentially the same interface. And it's quite frankly, pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure some of you have seen these before, but really along the left-hand side, this is live, so you can see my finger hovering over there, is the list of the meetings. And so at this point, I have not joined the meeting that we're in that you see highlighted at the top. That is this webinar right now. So I'm going to join that in a minute. But before I do, the one thing I just wanted to highlight, you'll also notice the other upcoming meetings on the Teams Room device. But in the top right corner of each meeting, you'll see some other logos there. And maybe your institution hasn't fully switched, or maybe sometimes you need to be invited to meetings external that you don't control and they're not going to be Teams. One of the important things to note is I can still hit my one-touch join. To me, that's the magic of where this technology's got. I remember hearing this years and years ago from some of the AV manufacturers. Oh, we're going to get to one-touch join, and it sounded great and didn't happen for many years. I'd like to say that to me, the day is kind of here, and it is that easy. So with that, the only important step I'm going to do, because I'm on my laptop before I hit the join button, is turn off my mic and my speakers on my local laptop so that I don't have interference. If I went the other way, Teams would tell me, which I'll show you a little later as well. So with any luck, you can still hear me. Can I get an audio check to make sure my room works?
Yeah.
Yes,
Sounds
yes,
great,
we can.
Nigel.
We
We
got
hear
you.
you quite well. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So step one done of playing with technology that just got deployed. So, so you can still see up on my screen here. To me, the first thing that I like about this is, when we were doing fully remote learning, I'm staring at my laptop and I'm hovered over looking at my local camera, or maybe I've got an external monitor or camera, depending on my setup. But right away, I kind of get to sit back. I can just talk to you freely. I'm looking at, in my case, a nice 55-inch screen on the wall where I can see Elka's lovely face and some other participants here, as well as what I'm sharing on the screen. So right away, as an instructor, to me, that would just be a more natural feel to talking to students in a room, or that whole learning scenario. Now, I did keep this up on the screen because this really becomes just to show you, but this really becomes the brains of your meeting. So if you think for an instructor that's got a classroom leveraging some of this technology, this is the panel that you want beside them. This is the thing that not only, as you can see, they've got a great mute all button. So if any of you get chatty or forget you're unmuted, I can do a big mute all. I've got a bunch of other features here that I can show you quickly. One that shows me the different types of modes that I can display on the screen. Maybe I don't care about the content right now, but I really want to see what everybody's reactions are. I could flip to content only, for example, or sorry, people only, or I could go the other way. So depending on what's important at that particular time, you see that. Now, for those of you that were at the live event at the BCNet conference, I talked a whole bunch about Microsoft Front Row technology. As you can see, that is listed here. We've got Front Row now in preview mode accessible for that. Unfortunately, without one more camera, I can't point it back to show you what that experience would look like. But hopefully from the slides last time, I'd be more than happy to bring people down and show them this as well live. To me, I did spend my last few days in meetings in this room, tried it out. I did find the experience better. Down the left-hand side, I could see reactions of people's hands up, On the right, I could see the meeting chat. I still saw my content in the middle, and all the important people that were doing the talking were front and center right above where my camera is. So it really started to make me feel like I was making eye contact with those participants. So that's kind of the first piece to show you there. From there, obviously, I've got my usual hand gestures that I can do. Put my thumbs up, raise the hand, things like that in the room that you might do. So for that, I can just dismiss that recording bar that popped up. So that kind of gives you the layout feel here. Now, I'm going to pause first. If there's Any questions from anybody, or Elka, anything to add before I start switching gears a little bit?
So no questions yet in the chat, and just an invitation for everyone. Please do use the chat. We'd be super happy to make sure that we are addressing your questions as we continue to proceed. But Nigel, a couple of things that I am very curious about is I think about faculty trying to use this for their classrooms, and if it's hard to use as you walk into the room. Help me with this, because when I look at it, I'm thinking, well, it's pretty easy. You just kind of turn it on and off you go. Help us with what that's going to take to help our faculty feel comfortable.
I mean, that's a really good point. And right near the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about the support side in more detail. But I mean, quite frankly, you are right. It is, people get scared when they see new tech in a room. And I consistently heard that from a number of our clients that during the pandemic did prep boardrooms, more in an office scenario. They had Teams rooms ready to go across their fleet of rooms. The day somebody came in, we got the call to the desk because they were terrified of the device. By the end of the call, or even as we train our support staff around this, they're going, that's it? That's all I need to know? Yeah, basically, schedule your meeting in Outlook, add your room to that meeting, or you can forward a meeting into that room. And then when you do, it's literally there on the console at the right time. There's only one button to press to start your meeting. So even as I show that expand a little bit to some of the more advanced, the fact that I've got multiple cameras, for example, the experience is really just that touch console that you can see here, really just being able to control it all, just like you did in Outlook or on Teams on your computer. I've got my mute buttons, my share buttons, all that kind of stuff basically looks the same. So for a lot of people working remote, when they come back in and see that, it is pretty self-explanatory to a good degree, in my opinion, but there's always that moment of shock until they see it. So does mean you want to arm yourself maybe a little bit of training or a user guide, or some of what I'll show you at the end as well.
Yeah. I wonder if you might also help us with, I see the Cortana there in the corner. Tell us a little bit about how Cortana can help.
What's cool about that, the same thing, that was one of the things I got to geek out and play with in the last few days, but instead of touching buttons, I don't have it enabled right now, but I could set it up so that it listens, and just like Alexa at home or whatnot, right? So that ability to go, hey, Cortana, join my next meeting. So yeah, imagine as an instructor coming into a classroom environment, they're focused powering up their laptop. It could be as easy as they join the meeting from their devices I have here to say, hey, Cortana, join my next meeting. Bang, all of a sudden those remote participants have been brought into the classroom while I'm even still setting up my laptop, for example. So it's pretty cool. In my opinion, there's a lot of other things you can do. You can say it from muting to a number of different activities. It gives you a good little menu here. I mean, I can try and press it now. Oh yeah, no, it's just going to listen to me now. There you go. So it gives you some ideas, how do I do this? Can I call somebody? So same thing, I can dial a phone number in here as well, right? There we go. So we're back to the main screen. So yeah, it can really help with just making it even simpler than even having to look at the console, for example.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And we've had some great comments in the chat as well, about Mike Vanny was asking about being able to see and access the chat and team settings in this mode as well. Thank you, Dina, for jumping in with the information about front row view. And also, Rick, thanks for the comment on making it easy for faculty and how important that is. Now, Rick, I just see your last comment coming in too about different functionalities as well, so that your faculty are able to also use the Microsoft Teams rooms with Zoom. And some of your tech savvy departments seem to prefer Teams with all the collaboration options. So you need that sort of interoperability. So that's helpful. Great. Now, Peter's got a question here, Nigel, around can the room gear, Logitech Teams room, detect that another client faculty laptop is in the same room and producing echo and mute devices using that Cortana AI?
Can't. No, it's not Cortana AI that does it. It's Bluetooth beaconing. And it is a beautiful function when you see it in action. You know what? Maybe the best way to do this. I'm going to lose my screen share for a second, but I'll get it back. I'm going to exit the meeting on my laptop here. And before I join, because it will detect the MTR signed into this room, everybody can still hear me. Nothing was connected to my meeting. Then when I join, the join dialog is going to pop up here. And that'll be what I will demonstrate once I hit join. And I'll throw a screenshot into the chat so you can see that experience if it kicks in for me here. Aha. So the beauty is, thanks to that screen, I didn't really have to think too hard. It's going to turn my camera back on. I'll leave it all defaults. All I did was hit the join button. And now that I'm back in the meeting, it's told me my speakers are muted, which is exactly what I want, because I don't want it to interfere. I'm going to throw into meeting chat what it popped up with, Peter. And to me, this is a thing of beauty when you actually start seeing it working. And while I've been playing between rooms, and last night I joined all of our rooms at the same time just to test audio and, and see what the experience was. But what you can see if you look on that screen on the right-hand side, it's all your audio join options. So I want to join through phone, through computer, and right when I pulled that screen up by hitting the join button, it automatically went and said, "Don't use audio." Suggested, and below in purple it says you're in a room that already has meeting audio. So it knew that essentially automatically. That now I'm going to turn off my camera so you're not staring at my chin while I talk here as well. But you see right away essentially that you don't get that conflict or that concern. And I did talk about that at the last event, that ability to seamlessly join. So my favorite way to do is join on the MTR first, come onto your laptop. When you go to join it, you say don't use audio, and you're good.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that with us, Nigel. I think we're ready to go on to the next part.
Amazing. Now I got to remember what I was going to do next. So I am going to reshare out my camera from content for a sec to show you one last thing on the MTR panel here. Well, I guess two things. Okay, everybody can see the console again. So one thing that you probably didn't notice is one of the meeting attendees here, partway down, Hub 2S Dominion, Mobile Surface Hub. So I'm fortunate enough, thanks to help with Microsoft, to have a Surface Hub to get to play with for this experience. But what we set up is called Coordinated Meeting Join. What it does is allow essentially, less than 4-minute configuration as a tech in the room to tell the MTR that this hub I trust and I want it to be part of my meeting. And on the hub, I told it, yes, trust my MTR and join it together. Just don't turn on mic and audio when they start together so that I don't have that god-awful echo that can kick in. So essentially, once I've paired them up that way, just literally 4 clicks on both devices and typing in the meeting room names on both sides, I've got that experience that when I hit the one-touch join here, my hub's already in the meeting, which you'll see in just a second here. So then the next thing to show you, again, back to that fear of, if you're the instructor trying to learn the new tech in a room, oh my God, how do I switch cameras? Even when you do it from Teams client, I have to say it's still a little bit clunky in Teams. It's, you got to go into your device settings. You got to go and find your drop down if there's more than one camera and pick it, and it'll switch. But it's not necessarily as easy. But when you look at the Teams console, you'll see over here on the right beside my video, which, by the way, if I just tap on it, we'll just blank out my video first off. So if for a minute you need to turn on video, you can obviously do that. But the thing that you'll see as soon as one more camera is connected is the drop down. So in this case, you see I'm on the Logitech Rally bar right now, and it gives me a nice little preview pane of what we're seeing. Of course, it's the same as what you're seeing right now. But when I tap that drop down, sorry, this is hard to do upside down, I'm going to pick the Rally camera. So I just woke up my other room, my other camera in the room here. Now you have to kind of bear with me because I only have limited space in the room that we're demoing right now. And what I did do is pick up the Logitech remote for this. And the button that I just hit was essentially, it does automatic tracking to where the speaker is in the room, or if there's more than one participant, it'll zoom out and try and find us all. So I overrode that by pre-programming a memory button. Basically, I just set the pen tilt zoom kind of where I wanted it to look. Sorry, I gotta remember, I gotta look over here now. And then press the button, held it down. It's like the little car seat button. If you've got a more modern car, you can program your memory settings, right? So it hones into where I want it to be. And then, for example, here, as you can see behind me, I've got the hub powered up now. And I'm gonna hit my other memory button and just go, now imagine I want to start presenting and walking around a little bit. So now in the same Teams room where maybe I'm still presenting content for a while on my laptop, from a scenario that I'll maybe get up, walk around, start showing what's on the screen here. Well, you can see, again, just from the camera pointed at the hub, I'm seeing basically the exact same Teams meeting pane that automatically joined, again, because the coordinated meeting joined. And it's also showing the content that I had up on the other side at this point in time. So generally speaking, the first thing that you're going to do when you're using the hub as a part of this, depending obviously what you want to use it for, is hit your sharing button on the hub. And this is going to override my laptop sharing. And I'm just going to share out the screen. So now you see exactly what the hub has in a minute here. Should put this up. And as you can see, I've only got half a panel. I already had my great PowerPoint one slide open. That right away I can kind of bring into full screen, kind of easily interact with it. Now, if this was a full, lecture, for example, and I've got a whole heck of a lot of slides here, I can literally just kind of swipe. Of course, it took me to my end slide because I only have one. So just being able to touch, slide it through, your shared content still looks better. But when you look at my video feed, you're looking at me beside it. I'm talking, interacting, just like I would in a classroom. So maybe I'll pause there and see, okay, do we have more questions rolling in? I think I just saw what's a hub?
Yeah. So maybe we can spend a few moments talking about the hub and how that act as a tool for a high flex and hybrid classroom can really take the sharing and the collaboration to a new level.
Right. Yeah. And one thing I will point out as well, so far I'm not getting into collab. I'm going to head down that path next. So this is still really like one-way instruction. But the beauty is I can get a lot more interactive with it. So first question, what's a Surface Hub? It's a big fancy Surface laptop. No, I mean, it looks more like a TV device, right? Literally, an impressively beautiful screen. In this case, mounted on an easel. So this is on wheels. Obviously, if I have a long enough extension cord, or you actually set up where you have there's a battery backup you can install on it. So this thing could be wheeled around from location to location as well. It's essentially a digital whiteboard on steroids, in my opinion. I can't be more eloquent with words, but that to me is what it starts enabling, is more interactive experience, finding a good way to share content. Obviously, you can also still see I could have turned on and had this camera turn on. So what if I'm doing a lot of whiteboarding, I might go the other way. I turn this camera off, I turn the Surface Hub camera on, depending on my experience. You'd be looking at me while I write on the board. And if I'm sharing content like I'm doing now, you'd also see me, in my video feed instead of this external camera that I'm doing. Another beauty of it is, again, I've got a big fat version of a Surface Pen, essentially, just like on my Surface device, that allows me to do cool stuff where, maybe I want to just simply emphasize or highlight something that's on my slide. This is where it starts getting cool. Now, I can't think of anything good to draw, but the ability to start interacting with this, and it gives me, again, the back of this is just like your good old pencil. I've got an eraser. I can do all my doodling and drawing that I want on this, presenting out content. This gets a little bit better though. I can do the same thing into other apps. So when I hit the switch screen window, can I show next? Just as one example, maybe I won't pull up some of these reports, but maybe if you're doing a lecture on Power BI and some of our reporting data, I could literally pull up, now some of this is confidential data, so I can't pull them all up, but I can pull this up and actually still use my pen on one of these reports, draw on it and doodle while we're having a conversation, go, yeah, this number is a problem, here's why don't we investigate it, have that collaborative dialogue, and interacting with the digital device, for example. Okay, am I missing any bigger points
Nigel,
there?
that's fantastic. And, we just had a planning session with another higher education institution just earlier this week, and we were using the hub and the whiteboard feature. Interestingly, we were also able to collaborate in that OneNote so that others were able to, who were not with us in person, they were remote, were able to also add to the whiteboard as we were capturing everybody's ideas in the room. So the hub really does enable that kind of collaboration when we get to use those whiteboard features, as well as being able to drag and drop in other documents as we go as well.
Right, and that was a really good lead in to exactly where I was going to go.
Yeah.
I kind of jump back on my laptop for a minute, come back up here after. But before I do, the only thing I did want to point out that I didn't happen to mention, so the Surface Hub is a specialized OS. It's not just a Windows device. There's a hub personal mode you can turn on if you're lucky enough to have this as your own device that just lives in your office. But for the rest of us that need to share these things, you keep it in the standard mode. So it's kind of like a lockdown customized version to Windows, if you will. Still has the same look and feel, but when I hit the start menu, the only thing I did before the session started was, so it's got its own room account just like any other room would, but I hit My Meetings and Files. I signed in once with my Microsoft account. As soon as I do that, you can see it sees all my recent files, my personal meetings that are coming up next. It allows me to pick it. I can choose my meeting and join it, even if I didn't invite the hub, all by just signing into the device. So when you combine this with the rest of M365 Modern Workplace, the story comes together. So, personally, I wouldn't want to try and just use it standalone. When you get to log into the device, I can find my files, I can find my information, I can come into my apps, and literally pull up live content, for example. Same thing, as we get into Whiteboard, which I'll show you in a second in a different view here. So before I do that, I'm gonna turn off sharing for a sec. And
Nigel, while you get that set up, a question came through. I want to make sure. So Rick has asked about the ability to change cameras. How simple is it? Is it tapping the video thumbnail kind of idea? How do you move through choosing other cameras?
exactly. So we'll turn my content sharing on my laptop on again. Because that is, to me, that's a really important point to make sure that we've seen there. And I went pretty fast while showing it. Sec. Okay, hopefully you'll see that again.
Yep.
We got our console back up. Switching cameras is literally a drop-down button. So right here, you see the drop-down right beside the video icon. All you got to teach your staff to do essentially would be click on that, click on the next drop-down. It would show you every camera there. Now, in my testing, I also had the Brio camera hooked up. I saw a third one I could pick from, but it's literally as easy as one drop-down, one click. I get to preview it to make sure I've got the right angle, for example. And just to show you again, I'll flip back to the rally bar. And with any luck, there you go. And zoom back in. Now you can see I'm more head-on with the rally bar that's right under my TV. So again, this is kind of that interaction I might have if I'm sitting down, I'm looking at the desk. As soon as I want to go to stand, though, for example, and get up beside the other device, excuse me, I would do that. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Nigel,
hopefully that answer that? Yeah.
Yeah, and one follow-on question. If instead you're at the hub, is the hub able to change videos as well?
Not from, if I had video cameras hooked up to the hub, I didn't program it the way that I did. Yes, how I have it set up in this instance, no, because mostly my cameras are all hooked up to the Teams room, and I wanted to be able to do that view to point at the hub. I could go the other way, but just to make sense, I could disable one side, turn on the other. So you're just trying to, as you configure these, you've got to design how you want it to work. And then from there, it's pretty simple. But yeah, essentially, absolutely, it would be the exact same thing. Camera drop down,
Awesome.
pick your other camera, and you're good.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. And I've got a thumbs up from Rick, who's asked the question that we've got it. Thank you. Great.
Perfect. Okay, so if all of you are ready to show something that will, fingers crossed, the demo gods will actually work. This is a feature that only GA'd this month for Teams. It's been one of the things that drove me bonkers about really making Whiteboard effective, in my opinion, was the fact it worked great as long as you're inside the same Microsoft tenant. So Microserve, we can all collaborate, we can pull up a whiteboard to our heart's content. As soon as you brought in a guest, like in a webinar like this, none of you can see it. So I have tested this with separate tenants and pulled them in. So fingers crossed that this will work. I'm going to share out from my laptop just to show you that experience of literally I'm just going share, picking Microsoft Whiteboard. I will say on the back end that we do make one change, which essentially saves the whiteboard into your OneDrive account. So that back end change is what allows us to do this. And right away you see. So hopefully, now give me a thumbs up or a hands if you're able to see the whiteboard for the first time as an external tenant to Microserve. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up go. So to me, I was super excited, and that's why I happened to pull down. You'll see I screenshotted the GA April, and it was here just in the nick of time to be able to demonstrate it in our meeting. Now this is what I'd say exactly takes a little bit of time to get staff used to, is how to use the whiteboard and the fact we can interact. So it's not like a screen share where when I move I zoom out or I zoom in on content on here, it's literally, as you can see, I've got cursors flying around while everybody's in here. You all have your own version of this, essentially. It got shared out by me, but now you can pinch and zoom if you've got touch screen, or in the bottom right, you can hit the minus or the plus to zoom in and out to see what pops up on the screen. So this is awesome. That's exactly what I was going to ask you to do. Play in the whiteboard. So now you start thinking when we're collaborating, how fun that is, right? Just the fact that we can all write, we can all throw stuff on there. If you use some of your fancier options, I can come up there and do a reaction, pick my thumbprint, for example, my thumbs up, whatever it is. It's a lot of fun as you get into that. And to me, that's what was missing through all of remote work, is being able to do things like this. So you could always kind of fake it with screen sharing of somebody in a whiteboard, but it came one way again. This is where you really start going two-way. Now the students can be interacting, adding content. We can be doing it at the same time. And Elka, the other thing you mentioned was, I can copy a graphic or screenshots of Word documents, paste them on into my whiteboard. So now you can, as I did here, you can mix and match all sorts of content. And when you've got the pen on a Surface Pro in your learning environment, then you really have that power. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch back to the other camera and go back up, because, maybe as the instructor, rally camera, as the instructor, so same thing here. I'll find out the other half of the screen, go full screen. I'm seeing the same thing that you are there. Now you're seeing it better because it's been shared out already. But now as an instructor, I might be beside this. I can start doing my great drawings and doodles or whatever it is I want, and really bring that classroom feel where I'm just up against a whiteboard writing. But what's cool about it, if you invited your class to come up and write on the physical whiteboard, which they still could on the hub, draw whatever they want, you could also invite your remote attendees to do the exact same thing. So to me, that's where something like cloud becomes pretty cool.
This really then enables the instructor and the student to be sharing together as the instructor is walking the students through the paced content, but it also enables group work to happen. And we know when group work can happen in a classroom, that students are able to develop out their skills in time to mastering much faster. So this is an incredible kind of tool to support that. Now, one question I didn't get to, Peter has asked about YouTube. You had pulled up the different apps that you were able to access, and he was curious around how easy it is to share YouTube from the hub. Do you have to do anything special to make sure that the sound is heard by everybody?
That's a good question. I haven't actually tried it, but it would be very similar. Because essentially, especially with the last update that came out for Surface Hub Teams app, it's almost no different than your Teams client local. So you do have the option when you do your sharing to include computer sound, for example. So I'm not going to try and fumble through finding you a YouTube video to watch right now. But what I would do would be share my screen. I would tick the box. You probably can't see, but I could zoom in for you. It take a minute for autofocus to kick in. I'm done scrolling. I don't know if you can see that. Right at the top, you see include computer sound. So I would turn that on for sure. I would do screen share out. Now, I have read some bigger articles that talk about if you want the right audio experience or video playback experience to work properly, use PowerPoint Live. So when you do PowerPoint Live, what's different? If you embed your YouTube video inside of PowerPoint and then run PowerPoint Live for your meeting, the difference would be when you hit play, it's actually streaming direct to their PC. It's not going through my meeting session all the way back out to the internet and then back down to the attendee. So there are ways to optimize it if you're doing a lot of that kind of thing. But I'd be happy maybe round two. Sorry, let me zoom back out so you can see me again, that you could do that.
Great, great. And just to remind everyone that this whiteboard is an infinite whiteboard. So all they would, well, we have gone and used our own drag. We've edited the whiteboard together. Now, if you were actually use your mouse or have a touch screen, you can move that whiteboard around and create more space, even on your home computer.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please, you next.
So I'm going to switch back to screen share from the hub for a sec. Because the other cool part, especially now with this change that we're internal or external, if I go right into the Microsoft Whiteboard app and I'm logged in, you see every one of my past whiteboards. So I'm in the one that got created by this meeting that you'll see. Now, as a guest attendee after the meeting, you won't be able to keep drawing, unfortunately, so apologies. But whoever's owning it, or if you're inside the own tenant, which would be more like the true classroom scenario, I can go all the way back to our BCNet Connect conference where we brought this hub for those that were able to see it. You can pull that up on the screen and go back to your saved whiteboard. So when you think about the physical whiteboard, the good old PLO, like please leave on, don't erase it. We really need this for next week. The cool part is essentially you've got PLO forever, right? I can just come in and out of whatever board I want to show, give you that dynamic feel.
Fantastic. And so while we're thinking about content sharing and pacing of the content within the learning context, I'm also curious in the Microsoft Teams rooms around content camera for when there may not be a hub in the room. I'm wondering about whiteboards. How do we help make sure it's a dynamic? Yeah, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna forget my next thought. Take us there.
I love your lead-ins. It's like, you know what I was going to say next. So this is where I get to drop out for a sec, and I'm literally going to drop off the Teams room to do a quick reconfig here. I'm going to pass it over to Dina, and then maybe Juliana, if you can spotlight her for a minute. You'll see a fancy gadget above her whiteboard, and Dina, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And so it's so funny because we've gone from very high tech to what a lot of our post-secondary people have, and that is plain old whiteboards. And Dana, do you mind unmuting for a moment? Because I am using the Logitech. Could you tell me I don't know the name of yours. What do you call it?
The Scribe.
The Scribe. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I do not have an AI camera in here, so I'm going to apologize, but I'm going to actually manually bring my camera in a bit. And I also happen to have, I'm not very good at this. There we go. So I'll just zoom up to the Scribe. This is it up here. And this is one of the most inexpensive items you will buy in your Teams portfolio. But it is the most wonderful. Wow, what have I done? Sorry, guys, bad camera angle. There we go. So I'll just do this for now. And let me just zoom in on the button. There we go. A little to the left. I am a bad driver. I should have practiced this a bit. And just again, on the AI cameras, it would follow me perfectly, and I would be doing this manually. This is the purple button on the Scribe. So all I do is push that, And as soon as I do that, it overrides the teams. It all of a sudden shows me my board. And it showed me already the most, and this could be a plain old whiteboard. We happen to have a glass in here. I didn't know how it would show up. It's beautiful. Do you see my arm? No, you don't see it very well. And the reason you don't is because the scribe is that smart. And I love this. So this is not the interactive. And of course, we talk about that and how we want our meetings. And that's what Front Row does. Front Row makes the meetings more interactive for the person in the far side. So you're not going to get to draw on my board, but you can see it. I'm going to fix my math. And anybody who knows me knows I don't do math, but you'll see it live. It's absolutely a plain old Sharpie, Expo Sharpie, a whiteboard. You've got them in your post-secondary institutes today, and this can be fed into any team's environment. Your instructors can manage pushing a big purple button. It's that easy to do. I can go back to the, oh, I forget if I can hit the button to turn it off, but I know I can go back here, push my content, and I will quit sharing my screen.
Now, before you do, I hope that everyone
don't ask me too much more.
Oh, no. I want you to do something because I hope everyone caught what happened. You moved in front of the whiteboard and the numbers with your body.
Yes.
And yet we can still see everything. So now what happens if
the visual of that?
Yes. So, and as you're right in front of it, is you're going to be, when you did those numbers, your hand was right in front of it, but the students weren't losing line of sight to the content.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
It is absolutely amazing. And to think that, as I said, I know post-secondary, you all have whiteboards in your rooms.
Mm-hmm.
By adding that scribe on there, you have now made those whiteboards interactive, not interactive, but you have made them accessible to your remote participants. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
It is one of the lower technology items, but I think it's amazing.
Game changer. Yeah. And you can even do this on your laptops as well. But for the classroom context, this is a really critical one, especially for your students who aren't in the classroom then, because they really do lose line of sight to content really easily, or squinting to see what's on the board. If you're watching Dina there in her own video, it's hard to see what's on the board, but when it's shared like this, it makes it enormously accessible. Now we got a question about the sensors that drive this board. Where are they? What's the blue thing on the wall? Is that the only sensor? So the whiteboard is an old-fashioned whiteboard, right? That's just a standard old glass whiteboard, right?
Correct.
Great. Okay. So it's just the camera overhead.
Oh, sorry. Zooming in again. That's my bad camera work. We must get a better camera in here. This room probably hasn't been used since before COVID.
Yep, there's the camera. Okay. And then I turn everything on and take that first picture of the whiteboard is the blue button. Is that the purple button?
Purple button.
There we are.
Yeah, it's like
fantastic.
It's a wireless screen share button. So if you didn't have that button, you'd just be hitting the share content button from your Teams Room device. But essentially, it is literally just like a USB camera plugged in. It's a Teams certified content camera, though. So it's doing some cool wide angle stuff. The rest of it is the Teams AI engines doing the rest of it to figure out where your whiteboard is and the resizing. You know, what I didn't mention, though, with that is you can do this with, so if you pointed a content camera at a piece of paper or a lab project or a microscope, you can be doing the same shared content using a content camera for other devices, kind of like I did when you saw the MTR Touch Console.
Yeah, great. Now a couple more questions. So the classroom that the room is all tied into, does it have its own OneDrive account? When we were sharing on the whiteboard, so first off, capturing this whiteboard, but also the other whiteboard, the Teams whiteboard. How does that all happen? Does it have its own OneDrive? How does it get saved?
That's I can take that one, Dina. Don't worry.
Thank you.
I do want to do a sound check. I am back to my laptop mic, not the fancy Teams room, just because I'm pointed the wrong direction. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep,
Okay. If I'm
fantastic.
looking down, it's so I can see you on my laptop. Well, technically, when you have a Teams room account, it is a specific license that you'd apply. It really does have its own OneDrive storage, for example. It's a little bit. It depends. Now, how I did it using the hub, while I joined using the actual hub's meeting room account, the difference is I logged in as myself. So I logged in as Nigel B at microserve.ca on the device. And then when I pulled up the whiteboard and when I'm the one to share the whiteboard, or same thing because I did it from my laptop, whoever shares it, essentially you're using their OneDrive. So, my favorite way to go if you didn't have the hub and you were going to do that, share it out from your laptop with your own login. The hub's going to consume it and display it on the screens, but you're really using your own personal OneDrive, which means you can find it after. You've got the control over who you want to share it to, if you allow it to be shared, all that good stuff. There's just a My Recordings folder in your OneDrive. Same with whiteboards. Sorry, My Whiteboards, something like that in OneDrive. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, I'm quite conscious, Nigel, we've got only about 5 more minutes left together. So I'm wondering if there are any last must-show things that you want to share.
There's only one more, as you can probably tell from my changed angle here. So I wanted to just highlight one of the biggest concerns I see from the tech teams that are involved with Teams rooms. Well, AV in general is often a scary topic for help desks and whatnot. Many years passed of getting burned by rooms that seemed really cool but had really complex gear. So one of the things we're doing is, as an organization partnering with Microsoft, is trying to help alleviate some of that pain. Obviously, you can do the same yourself and be happy to give you your own solution to kind of self-create here. But this is something we call more like white glove in-room support. So the idea of what you can see behind me, that all I've done is do a custom Teams room theme, basically a fancy background. I found some image of Vancouver, if you can tell. I put Microserve's logo on it. That could be your institution logo if you want. And then over here, what you see is a little thing that might be a little bit hard to read. I'm not sure if you can read that, but need technical help with this room. Scan the QR code, or just in case there's some people that are familiar with QR codes, here's our phone number. Here's the URL. Now, with any luck, the one thing I wanted to show you, which again, I'm pushing the boundaries here, I'm gonna try and share out my phone, which you should now see. Any luck? Everybody seeing my phone here?
Yep, looks good.
So this is what your user experience will be. Essentially hover over the QR code, launch an Edge. It takes me back to this portal. And I've just done a quick mock-up demo portal. This is a piece of software that we leverage called Teleportivity. So think of it as your one-stop shop for getting support. Maybe I just jump into a quick reference guide. How does my room work? How do I start a meeting? Your quickest and most commonly asked questions. Hey, they just scanned it before they even had to call me. You give them some quick tips, things to get them started. Now, usually I'll find that's like day one, meeting room one, never used a Teams room. After that, they'll never go back to your quick reference guide. But giving the option then to do things like dial for support. So this can obviously just be a number back to your help desk. Or if you don't want to build out sort of the expertise or the understanding with it, then you could even leverage Microserve as an AV help desk just for your boardroom support by introducing QR codes. We also do it through, if you look at my video, things like QR code plaques. So we can also have that on a table in the room that you can scan as well, or customize a background, for example. So hopefully that just gives you a bit of a preview of some of the art of the possible and where we're trying to take managed meeting rooms as a service. We're also tying this back into Teams Room Premium, which is like Teams Rooms on steroids from a monitoring perspective. The alert I got the other day in the room Dina was in was an alert to say that somebody turned off the screen when they left the room, which really screws it up for that poor next participant that walks into the room and goes, I'm joined, but I'm not seeing it. We already knew it was a problem. Now, our AV help desk would already know that's a problem because we either got an alert and proactively sent somebody to look at it, or at least while we're in the call, hey, I know we tell you never to use the remote, but grab the remote. Can you hit the power button for me? Because we knew the screen was down. And that's using real-time intelligence and AI analytics. Just cooler things like automatically remediate other issues if it can, if it's software-based issues. And so there's a lot of power in the Teams Room Premium component as a service. And then again, if all of that is just too much and you don't want another admin portal and have to manage that, the coordination between Microsoft and the vendor of the technology in the room, then we can take all of that on for you as our MTR managed service. So just kind of lead you with that. You can do all this cool tech. It is really easy, but at the same time, you need to make sure it's going to keep working. So
Yeah.
that's the last thing I kind of want to leave you with.
Yes. And enormously helpful, Nigel, when we think about faculty and educators as they enter their rooms and are stuck. They have the students waiting for the class to begin, and they're just not sure how to get going, or something's going wrong. This is the kind of support then that helps them get going so the learning can happen. And one last thing to make sure that we are leaving folks with is the evolution of the front row, so that students are not feeling like they can't see and be heard. That front row really does make sure that we're focusing in on the person who's speaking to elevate the experience. It's not just some disembodied, muffled voice in the room. So first off, I want to thank Nigel, Dana, thank you so much for your help with this demo today. Incredibly interesting and lots of great feedback in the chat as well. And so I think on behalf of the other participants as well, thank you so much.